All right, I want you to try something for me. Just reach into your pocket or, look on your desk. Grab your phone
Okay.
and just feel the weight of it. Now, try to imagine that instead of this slick piece of glass and metal, you're holding a tiny flashing slot machine. You take this thing everywhere. To dinner, the bathroom, you sleep with it. And every, 15 minutes, you get this itch, this physical urge to pull the lever.
It sounds like a bit of a dystopian exaggeration when you put it like that, doesn't it?
It does.
But if you actually look at the source material we've pulled for this deep dive, that analogy, it's not a metaphor. It is the literal blueprint for how these things are designed.
And that's exactly what we're unpacking today. We're not just talking about screen time or, feeling a little guilty about being on TikTok too much.
No.
We are looking at the specific engineering behind the addiction, the biological cost, which is honestly way steeper than I realized, and then the good part. How to actually break the loop.
Right.
Because that survey data was 85% of people describing themselves as very or completely addicted.
Which is a staggering number. It really is.
It is, but let me play devil's advocate for a second. Is addicted really the right word? I mean, I check my email because I have to for work. I check the news because I want to be informed. It feels like a tool, a necessity, not like a drug.
And that's the trap. It feels like utility, but the mechanism that keeps you there is pure behavioral psychology.
Yeah.
If it were just a tool, you'd use it and then you'd put it away. But think about the last time you opened your phone to say, check the weather, and then 20 minutes later you're watching a video of a guy restoring a rusty knife and you have absolutely no idea how you got there.
Okay, that is painfully accurate. I call that the fugue state.
The sources call it the slot machine effect. And to really get why you can't stop, you have to understand this concept from B.F. Skinner. It's called variable ratio reinforcement.
This is the rat with the lever, right? That whole thing.
Pigeons, actually, and rats, and now humans. Skinner found something absolutely fascinating. If a pigeon pecks a lever and gets a food pellet every single time,
right,
it eventually gets bored, it eats until it's full, then it just ignores the lever. Consistency is actually the enemy of addiction.
Because it's predictable. There's no mystery, no hope.
Exactly. But if you rig that lever, so the pigeon might get a pellet, or it might get nothing, or it might get a huge jackpot of pellets, that pigeon will peck the lever until it literally collapses from exhaustion.
Wow.
It's the unpredictability, that maybe, that hijacks the brain.
And that's the pull to refresh.
That is the pull to refresh. Look at the design. You swipe down, you see that little spinning wheel for just a second?
Yep.
That is the lever pull. Your brain is just screaming, what am I going to get? Is it a like? Is it a DM? A news alert? Or nothing?
And usually it's nothing. Or, just junk.
And that is the most insidious part. The nothing is just as important as the something. The failure to get a reward actually spikes your dopamine for the next attempt.
Wait, hold on. I always thought dopamine was the reward chemical. I get the dopamine hit. You're saying the lack of a reward is what triggers it.
This is probably the biggest misconception about dopamine, and it is so key to this whole thing. Dopamine is not the chemical of pleasure, it is the chemical of pursuit.
Of seeking.
It's the seeking system. Its job is to motivate you to go find the reward, not to enjoy it. So when you pull to refresh and get nothing, your dopamine system doesn't shut down, it doubles down.
Wow.
It says, keep looking, the jackpot's just around the corner.
So every red dot, every little vibration, every ding, it's basically the casino lights flashing, telling you to pull the lever again.
It creates this loop where you're constantly seeking, but you are never, ever satisfied. And this leads to that fugue state you were talking about. There's this anthropologist, Natasha Schull. She studied gambling addiction in Vegas for years, and she calls this the nothingness zone.
That sounds incredibly bleak.
It is. It's not about winning anymore. For the hardcore addict, whether it's slot machines or scrolling, the goal is just to enter a trance state where the self kind of dissolves.
So you're not worried about your mortgage or your relationship.
Or your anxiety. You're just in the rhythm. Swipe, scan, swipe, scan.
I think we've all felt that. Is that moment where you finally look up from the screen and the room has gotten dark and you just feel kind of gross, like you just ate a whole bag of stale chips.
That feeling is your brain realizing it's been hijacked. And the tech companies, they know this. It's why they systematically removed what are called stopping cues.
Explain that. What's a stopping cue?
Well, in the physical world, things end. You read a magazine article, you get to the bottom of the page. That's a stopping cue.
Right.
It's a tiny moment where your brain wakes up and asks, okay, do I want to keep going?
But the The feed never ends.
The infinite scroll was a deliberate, conscious design choice. It is like a bowl of soup that secretly refills itself from the bottom while you're eating.
That's a terrifying analogy.
You never get that stopping cue to prompt a decision, so the default is always just keep going.
Wow. Okay, let's pivot to what this is actually doing to us, physically, to our brains. The sources use two terms that I think people mix up, but they seem really different. Popcorn brain and brain rot.
They are very different, and the distinction is so important. Popcorn brain is all about attention. It's a fundamental rewiring of how your brain processes stimulation.
This is the I can't watch a 2-hour movie anymore without checking my phone phenomenon.
Yes. Your brain adapts to its environment. So if you spend 6 hours a day in a world of 15-second clips, flashing lights, constant context switching, your brain gets really, really good at that.
It becomes a hyperactive machine.
But the problem is when you step back into the real world, which is slow and quiet and linear, your brain just freaks out. It's popping around like corn in a hot pan because it is starving for that high-speed input.
So real life just feels boring.
Intolerably boring. But brain rot, and this comes from a study out of Munich, that is about memory and actual cognitive decline. And the results of this study were genuinely disturbing.
Okay, walk us through it. Because rot is a very strong word.
It is. They took a group of people, had them perform a task, then they gave them a 10-minute break.
Just 10 minutes. A coffee break.
Exactly. Half the group was told to just sit and rest, do nothing. The other half was allowed to use their phones, specifically TikTok and Instagram.
Okay.
Afterward, they tested their memory of the task they had just done, the group that scrolled, saw a massive decline in memory accuracy, nearly 40% worse than the group that just rested.
40% from 10 minutes of scrolling.
Here's why. Your brain needs downtime to transfer information from short-term to long-term memory. It's a process called consolidation.
Right.
When you fill every spare second with intense new input, like a viral dance or a news headline, you are physically interrupting that consolidation process.
So by checking my phone in the elevator or in line for coffee, I'm actively stopping my brain from saving the last hour of my life.
You're creating a state of what's called continuous partial attention. You are processing everything, but you're retaining almost nothing. It's why you can watch Reels for 2 hours and not be able to name a single thing you saw.
That hits hard. I feel that all the time. I'll read an article, and 5 minutes later, I couldn't tell you the main point. I just assumed I was getting old.
It's not age. It is interference. And then you add this tug of war that's happening inside the brain, and it gets even harder to stop.
This is the amygdala versus the prefrontal cortex battle, right? But isn't that just basic biology? Why does the phone change things?
Because of the chronic stress it creates. Your amygdala is your ancient lizard brain. It handles fear, impulse, survival. The prefrontal cortex is the CEO. It's planning, willpower, long-term thinking. Chronic scrolling upregulates the amygdala. It keeps it on high alert, and it downregulates the prefrontal cortex.
So I'm basically taking my willpower muscle to the gym and then just skipping leg day. Every single day.
It's worse. You're letting that willpower muscle atrophy while you're injecting steroids into the impulse muscle. That's why just use willpower is such terrible advice. You are fighting a biological mismatch with a compromised brain.
That brings us perfectly to revenge bedtime procrastination.
Ah, yes.
I have to admit, I do this. I'll be exhausted. I know I have an early meeting, but I'll stay up until 1 a.m. watching, woodworking videos. I don't even own a saw.
So you feel like your time was stolen from you during the day, right? By your boss, your kids, your commute. So you stay up late to take revenge and reclaim that me time.
But I'm just making myself more tired for the next day. It makes no sense.
And that fatigue weakens your prefrontal cortex even more, which makes you even more susceptible to the phone's pull the next day. It is a self-perpetuating cycle of exhaustion and scrolling.
Okay, that is the diagnosis. And frankly, it's pretty depressing. I feel like my brain's turning to mush and I have no control. But we promised a toolkit. We did. And I don't want the generic, turn off your notifications advice. I want the stuff that actually breaks the loop.
All right. We have to approach this like we are fighting an opponent who is stronger, smarter, and has more money than us. We need cheat codes.
I like that.
The first one is the slot machine audit.
This comes from a few sources, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
The advice is simple, but it is painful. You have to identify the apps that function like slot machines, the infinite scroll, the variable rewards, and you delete them.
Delete them. Okay, I'm going to be the skeptic. If I delete Instagram, I've done this, I'm just going to re-download it tonight when I'm bored on the couch.
And that's totally fine, but here's the trick. You don't delete your account. You just delete the app.
Uh,
You're still allowed to check Instagram, but you have to do it on a desktop computer or even a mobile browser.
I see. Have you ever tried to use Instagram on a mobile browser? It is awful.
It's clunky, it's slow, the interface is not optimized for dopamine. That is the entire point. You are adding friction. When it's an app, it's a slot machine. When it's a browser tab, it's just a website. You'll check it, see your notifications, get bored by how bad it is, and then you'll leave.
So we're intentionally making the experience worse to break the spell.
Friction is the only thing that beats willpower. Which leads us to the most controversial rule. The bedroom rule.
Don't charge your phone in the bedroom. I know. My excuse is always, but I use it as my alarm clock.
Buy an alarm clock. They cost $10.
Angela Duckworth, who wrote Grid, she says, where you put your phone at night may be the most important decision you make.
That's a huge claim.
But if it's within arm's reach when you wake up, you will check it.
It's the first thing I do. Before I even say good morning to my partner, I'm checking email.
You are letting the entire world dictate your mood before you've even brushed your teeth. You start the day in a reactive, defensive state. If you charge it in the kitchen, you have to physically get up, walk out of the room, and face your own life before you face the screen. It seems so small, but I guess it completely breaks that morning loop of just lying in bed for 30 minutes scrolling.
It probably saves you an hour a day right there.
Okay, what about grayscale mode, turning the screen black and white? Does this actually work? It feels too simple.
It works because we are deeply visual creatures. Your brain sees those bright red notification bubbles and colorful app icons like shiny, ripe fruit. It signals sugar or reward.
Right.
When you turn the screen grayscale, you strip away that reward signal.
So it turns the fruit into oatmeal.
Exactly. I tried this myself, and it's shocking how unappealing Instagram looks in black and white. It just looks like data. The utility's still there. You can call an Uber, check a map, but the dopamine hit is gone.
So we're removing the slot machine lever, or at least making it really rusty and unappealing.
Yeah.
What about the mental side? Because even if my phone is in the kitchen, I still have that mental itch, that popcorn brain.
You have to retrain your brain to handle the pause. One source suggested the 3-second brain reset. Before you unlock your phone, just stop. Take one breath and ask yourself, why?
Just why?
Why am I checking this right now? And usually the answer isn't, I need to call the fire department. It's, I'm bored, or I'm anxious, or I'm trying to avoid this difficult email. That 3-second pause forces the prefrontal cortex, the CEO, to come back online.
It interrupts the zombie mode.
It gives you a choice. But here's the problem. If you stop scrolling, you create a void. You have all this new time and mental energy, and if you don't fill it with something better, you'll just go right back to the phone.
This is where that idea of living a lifetime in a day comes in. I really love this framework, but it also felt a little ambitious.
It is ambitious. The idea is that to feel fully human, we need to touch on 5 different modes of living every single day.
Okay, break them down for me.
First is childhood. That just means play, doing something with absolutely no purpose other than it's fun.
So not necessarily productive.
The opposite of productive, doodling, joking with a friend. Second is work feeling productive. Third is community connection. Fourth is retirement.
Okay, how do I do retirement at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday?
Retirement just means reflection and rest. It means sitting with a cup of coffee and just being. Not planning, not working, just existing. And the fifth, and maybe most important, is solitude.
Being alone with your thoughts, which is, let's be honest, terrifying for most of us now.
And that's the absolute crux of it. We use the phone to kill boredom. But the sources all argue that boredom is a vital biological state. When you're bored, your brain activates something called the default mode network.
And what's that?
It's like the background operating system of your brain. It's where creativity happens. It's where you process your emotions. It's where you figure out who you are and what you want. If you never allow yourself to be bored, if you plug every single tiny gap with your phone, you are effectively suffocating your own inner life.
That explains why I get my best ideas in the shower. It's the only place I can't bring my phone.
It's the only time your default mode network is allowed to actually boot up.
So the goal isn't just less phone. It's more life. It's about reclaiming that creative, bored, reflective space.
Precisely. But, and this is a really big but, don't try to do all of this at once.
Right. The list is long. Delete the apps, buy an alarm clock, go grayscale, the 3-second rule. I'm already feeling overwhelmed.
And that's why the sources suggest the rule of 2. Your brain hates massive change. It will rebel. So pick just 2 things from this whole list.
Just 2.
Maybe it's just, I will charge my phone in the kitchen and I will turn on grayscale. That's it.
That feels doable.
And then you stick to just those 2 things for 8 weeks.
8 weeks. Why so long?
That's about how long it takes for neuroplasticity to really kick in, for the brain to physically rewire itself around that new habit. You are undoing years of engineering designed by thousands of the smartest people in the world. You have to give yourself time.
It's a progression, not just flipping a switch.
Exactly. And you have to keep the end goal in mind.
Which brings me to the thought I really want to leave everyone with. We mentioned that the average person spends about 6.5 hours a day on their phone.
A terrifying number.
It is. If you do the math on that, it's almost a full-time job.
It's a huge amount of your life.
But flip it around. If you manage to reclaim even half of that, just 3 hours a day, that is over 1,000 hours a year.
That's enough time to learn a language, to get in the best shape of your life, to write a book.
So the real question isn't just, how do I stop scrolling? The real question is, who would you be if you invested those 1,000 hours into yourself instead of into a slot machine? What version of you are you currently scrolling away?
That's the question worth answering.
Thanks for diving in with us. And seriously, maybe put the phone down now. Go be bored for a minute. We'll see you next time.